So, hello. This video is more for beginners and not for pros, because people who ride a lot and do it a long time know how they have to adjust their suspension. But if you are starting, often the manuals which are given they are not bad, but they do not answer every question. I try to help a little bit here. So, first, adjusting your suspension system. This is what this video is about. The first step is you have to ask yourself, which suspension system do I need? Better said, for what do I use my suspension? This is a downhill bike and I use it specifically for downhill most of the time, so I will show you how to adjust the suspension for downhill usage. This is a Fox 40 with a Kashima coating, model year 2012. It is a long travel fork and a high-tech fork. And what do you have to do to get the most benefit from this? First, you want, in downhill usage, both wheels on the ground as long and as often as possible, because only when the wheels are on the ground you can brake, you can steer, you can change your direction, you can make movements or do whatever. But most of these things are only working when the wheels are on the ground. So the suspension has to help here. A long travel fork like this with 203 mm of maximum travel weight is a very good help. You should use as much of this travel as possible on every ride, because this way the fork is eating away the energy, absorbing the shocks, and pushing the wheel back down without pushing you back from the ground after a jump. The trick is, in my personal opinion, the trick is to use a very hard spring, which is way too hard for your body weight. This is an orange spring. It is the second hardest spring available now for this fork. It's about 112 up to 123 kilogram, I think, and I'm only 82, 83 kilogram. But the result is, with this hard spring, the fork has a protection against crushing to the end of travel way after a very hard jump, or a drop, or something like this, or a bump, something unexpected. Only this can help the compromise, not having to use the high-speed compression. The high-speed compression can also prevent crushing the fork to the end of travel way, but the high-speed compression also reduces the sensitivity of the fork. If there are suddenly roots, rocks, anything like this. So the hard spring protects the fork, and as a result of this, you can adjust the preload on a very, very low level. I use the preload level of 0. And the high-speed compression level of only 4 or 5, which is also not that high. The low-speed compression is also on 0, because the spring is very hard and it can do the job alone. So the fork is acting very, very smoothly. It has a negative travel weight of about 3 or 4 centimeters, which is a little bit less than recommended as a result of the hard spring. But with all the other settings on minimum or very low, the fork is acting very sensitively, and it keeps the wheel down as long as it can. And now, after a jump, a bump, a rock, or something like this, when the fork pushes up again, there's a rebound. If the rebound of the coil is too fast, the fork lifts the wheel up from the ground, which makes it from the feeling like you're riding a rubber ball or something like this. You can also reduce this with a low air pressure in the tires, but this is a different story now. The trick to check your rebound is compress your fork with your whole body weight, like this, and when you release, the rebound should be adjusted to that point that the wheel is not lifting up from the ground when the fork has done its job pushing up your body weight again. So, what do we have until this point? The little tip: using a hard spring, control your rebound. Also very important for sensitivity is lubing your stanchions. If the stanchions are completely dry, even a Kashima coating is not that sensitive like a lubed stanchion. And the side effect of lubing the stanchion, besides the sensitivity, is a protection against small dirt particles. There are those cotton filters for cars or motor vehicles from K&N, for example, which are operating with oil too. The oil is like an additional sealing on those rubber sealings here. Those, I think they are called SKF. They work very well itself, but with a little bit oil on this point, the fork is more smoothly and the dirt is caught here. When I serviced my fork the last time, I could not really find dirt inside. So, even if some people say this is not necessary, I have to say I made a very good experience with this. So I think for the fork we are done. The rest is in the manual. The manual is very good. You should read the manual, what means preload, what means high-speed compression. I just want to give you a small, a few tricks beside this. The rear shock is similar too. The rear shock is also a coil version on my bike. It's a DHX RC4. It's not the actual model, not the model of now, but the trick is the same. Use a hard spring. This way you can adjust all the other settings here, the compression settings, on a low level, which gives a very good responding rear shock. And if you use the pressure of the piggyback, I personally like using a very high pressure, a maximum pressure of 200 psi. And here's the next trick. When you're filling your piggyback with those little hand pumps, especially for this, you should remember one thing. Important is the indicator when you are connecting it to the valve, not when you are releasing it from the valve. Because most of those little hand pump valves are not that good, and at the moment when you when you disconnect them from the valve of the piggyback, you lose pressure again. For example, you pump up to 200 psi, but you're losing 25 psi while disconnecting. You do this several times. Remember the difference between what you have pumped in and the indicator showing when you connect it the next time, and you have to add this difference more when you're filling up your piggyback. And this way you can go to the maximum of the allowed air pressure of the piggyback, and you can avoid losing pressure by a bad valve while disconnecting. Then lubing here is also very important, also for sealing and sensitivity. I personally like using Ballisto because it's adhesive enough and it does not act like a glue after a few days. So it's very good oil for this. For lubing those links of the bicycle frame, I use TF2 because it dries faster. I think that I could watch the oil dry away. So it's easier for cleaning it after a few rides, but until this point it provides enough lubrication. But for a fork or a rear shock, I personally only use usefull because I think TF2 is washing away the original oil in those suspension systems. This is what I have seen. Yeah, I think we're done so far. What you're doing with your suspension is your thing. This is what I do with mine. It worked very well. And always remember, there are compromises. A suspension adjusted for downhill is not working very good for freeride, and the cross-country suspension is not working for downhill. A long travel fork should be allowed to use its travel. I think about 2/3 of the travel, the maximum travel, on every ride, and the rest as a reserve. And only if you're using this travel, the fork has the possibility to help you to keep your wheel on the ground and not to lose control over your bike. Thanks for the attention. If you have questions, you can write me a personal message. If I have time, I will answer it. If you have tips for me, you're welcome. Feel free to post. And so far, bye.